בעזרת השם נעשה ונצליח.
Amen.
I want to welcome you to this special class here at Bet Rambam Synagogue in Houston. Baruch Hashem, once again, I have the honor to be asked to speak over here. Rabbi Masri is giving me an opportunity to speak over here, and I'm very grateful for it. Every time I come here, I get very happy. It's like a fresh thing for me. So, totally have endless hakarat hatov to the rabbi, endless hakarat hatov to the community and to the people that are here in attendance. Before we get started, I'd like to give some dedications and honorable mentions. First, we have Hashem Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Yagid Tilatecha Yitbarach Shemo Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The following class has been sponsored by Dov and Sharone Lankry. Be'ezrat Hashem, that this Divrei Torah will be to the Ilui Nishmat of Maimon ben Edmond, Esther bat Yamna, Yitzchak ben Yamna, Shlomo ben Yamna, Miriam bat Esther, Betzion ben Simi, and also Dov and Sharone Lankry success in all areas, as well as raising kids in Derech Torah and Mitzvot.
Amen.
And I also wish for all Am Yisrael לעשות תשובה באהבה.
Amen.
Dov and Devorah, Hashem yivרך atkhem, v'sameach atkhem, always supporting Torah classes, being a part of להגדיל תורה ולהדירה, שהשם יברך אתכם, שמח אתכם. Also, may these Divrei Torah be to the Ilui Nishmat of David ben Zohar, Yaniv ben Rina, Rachel ben Chana Waknin, Shlomo David ben Isha, Shlomo ben Chana v'Yom Tov ben Najed, Yonatan ben Alis, Eli Uzziah ben Yosef beremo, Amram ben Isha, Marcel Ruth ben Shada, Moshe ben Rachel, Maimon Edmond ben Esther, Daniel Rachmiel ben Gedalia, and Pinchas ben Miriam Mercedes. And also that this should be to the Atzlacha of the Zivug of Inbar bat Jacqueline, Batchem bat Jacqueline, Stacy Esther bat Miriam, Arya Dave ben Yudi Devorah, Guy ben Dina, Meshi bat Yafa, Lital bat Yafa, Yosef Yonatan ben Guria, Yehuda Lev ben Tova Shindel, Sheina Henshi bat Leah Gittel, Iris bat Shula, Eli ben Shula, and Abigail bat Iris. And also this should be for the general success Bracha v'Atzlacha of Julie and Yonatan Moshe Yarimi, as well as Shalom ben Esther Stacy, Eliyahu ben Esther Stacy, Abraham ben Violet Chaya, Abraham ben Meir, Jeff ben Meir, Yosef ben Abraham, and a special bracha to the people that are in attendance. Hashem yivרך atkhem, v'sameach atkhem. They should be, Hashem should bless you with health, wealth, success, bracha v'atzlacha in all you do, nachat from all your children, and the be'ezrat Hashem you go ma'ala ma'ala b'avodat Hashem bli yerida.
Amen. Amen.
Okay, we are now in Sefer Bereshit. Sefer Bereshit is famously known for being Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim. The actions of the forefathers are almost like a blueprint for the children, like a spiritual GPS, an instruction manual, a guide. Whatever Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are going to do, it's going to be like a guide for the children what to follow. Now, not only the children, meaning the 12 tribes, but us, the children of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So we have to pay close attention to what's happening in Sefer Bereshit. Because Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim. As a matter of fact, if you take the Rashi Tevot of Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim, the first letters, it spells out the name of the angel of death, the devil himself. Samech Mem and Aleph Lamed. It's the same Rashi Tevot. What does this show us? That if you want to fight the Samech Mem, if you want to fight the Samech Mem and Aleph Lamed, Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim. That's how you get them. You follow the footsteps of the forefathers. Now, something that is very interesting that we want to focus on because it's part of the few parashiot that we're in right now, and it's very, very interesting if you pay attention to it, is that all three Avot, because right now we could speak about Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, you know, they're all like grouped together in the past few parashiot, but both Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, all of them dug wells. Hafru be'erot. It's very interesting. They dug wells, they uncovered wells, they found shidduchim by wells. What's the deal with the wells? What's the deal with the be'er, or with the be'erot? Very, very interesting. I'd like to first give us the background to the wells with Avraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov. And after we've established that, we'll go a little bit deeper into the lesson and understand it a little bit better. For example, if we go to Parashat Vayetze in Bereshit, to the 6th Aliyah, Pasuk, which is Perek Chaf Aleph, Pasuk Chaf Hey, it starts the story with Avraham. והוכיח אברהם את אבימלך על אודות באר המים אשר גזלו עבדי אבימלך. And we see that Avraham Avinu disputed with Avimelech. He rebuked him about the happenings that happened by the well, that the servants of Avimelech, they stole this well. So there was a well, and all of a sudden the servants of Avimelech came and got involved with it. Continues to say, ויקח אברהם צאן ובקר ויתן אבימלך ויכרתו שניהם ברית. After the day, Avimelech says, אנוכי לא שמעתי בלתי היום, לא הגעת לי וגם אנוכי לא ידעתי. He says, I don't know what you're talking about. But then they decide to make like a peace treaty and breed. And what does it say over there? That they take the Sheva Kevasot, they take these 7 sheep. ואומר, כי את 7 כבשות תיקח מידי, בעבור תהיה לי לעדה, כי חפרתי את הבאר הזאת. I want this to be a treaty to understand, I'm the one that dug this. Abraham wants Avimelech to know, I dug this well. So important for him. And it's so important that they called it the famous name, על כן קרא למקום ההוא, באר שבע. That we know that this famous city in Israel, Be'er Sheva, this is where this whole thing happened. Now, if you go to Rashi, he tells us כי חפרתי את הבאר. Why is Avraham Avinu bringing the claim that I'm the one that dug the well? מריבים היו עליה רואי אבימלך ואומרים אנחנו חפרנוה. The sheep herders of Avimelech said, no, we dug this well. Avraham is not going to lie, right? There's 2 sides to a story, right? Some say 3. One side, both sides in the truth. But we know that Avraham is not going to lie about digging a well. But היו מריבים עליה, they were fighting over it, רואי אבימלך, ואומרים אנחנו חפרנוה. So how did they decide? I dug the well, Avraham says. The sheep herders of Avimelech said, no, I dug the well. Okay, so how do you decide? Look what Rashi says. אמרו ביניהם, כל מי שיטעה על הבאר ועלו המים לקראתו, שלא הוא. We're going to go to the be'er, and if the water rises to that person that comes to it, that's who dug the well. I'm surprised on the people of Avimelech, the Avdei Avimelech, they thought that it was actually going to happen to them. ועלו לקראת אברהם, this Bereshit Rabbah brings it, that the water came up to Avraham, and that was his well. So we see that there's already the Be'er Sheva with Avraham, that Avraham dug a well. Why is it so important for us? Okay, Avraham, you dug a well. Move on. Is it so important that we know that you dug it and that you did it? And not only that we have to sign a peace treaty and give it a name, Be'er Sheva. What's so important about this well? If we go a little bit further and we go towards Yitzchak in Parashat Toldot, it says over there, something very interesting. We'll give this a little bit more background before we get into the Be'er. Vayeshev Yitzchak b'Grar. We see that Yitzchak is now sitting in a place called Grar. In other words, he's not at home. He's not in his father's tent. He's not in the comfortable area that we call Canaan. He's in Gerar. And while there, it says that during this time, we go to Pasuk Yudbet, that there was a time, Vayhi Rav Ba'aretz, Milvad Harav Harishon Asher Bimei Avraham. Vayilech Yitzchak El Avimelech, Melech Plishtim Gerara. So we see over here that there was a famine in the land. Now this famine is not the same famine that Abraham had in his time. It's another one. There's no food. So Yitzchak goes to Avimelech, who is the king of Plishtim, in this place called Gerara. And he's standing over there. So we see that the situation is that it's not that good, right? Yitzchak is displaced. He's not in the place where he's supposed to be. Plus, there's famine in the land. So you see that the situation, is not the greatest. And what happens to Yitzchak? ויזרע יצחק בארץ ההיא וימצא בשנה ההיא 100 שערים ויברכהו אדוני. In this hostile environment, Yitzchak flourishes. He becomes a huge success. He gets 100 gates of success. And he gets the blessing of Hashem. Makes no sense. Makes no sense that something like that should happen when that's what's going on in the world. And right after that, we try to find the answer. Why would Yitzchak be such a huge success? Mea Sha'arim opened up for him. If you go to the next pasuk right after that, it says, ויהיה לו מקנה צאן ומקנה בקר ועבודה רבה ויקנאו אותו פלישתים. Here we go again. He's just as successful as his father Avraham Avinu, but now the same people that bothered Avraham before, Avdei Avimelech, now Avimelech is the king of Plishtim, and here they are. They're coming to bother him. Plishtim, the Philistines. And look what happens here. וכל הבארות אשר חפרו עבדי אביו בימי אברהם אביו סיתמו פלישתים ומלאו עפר. All the wells that Abraham dug, these Plishtim came and they covered all of them up. Now, right after this, Avimelech comes to Abraham's son, to Yitzchak, and says, "Leave us, go. You're too wealthy. You are too successful. You can't live amongst us." He went outside of the city and he stayed by the river of God. What does Yitzchak do? Maseh avod siman lebanim. Whatever his father did, he's going to do. The next pasuk, וישב יצחק ויחפור את בארות המים אשר חפרו בימי אברהם. He says, my father dug these wells, I'm going to dig the wells that my father dug. ויסתמו פלישתים אחרי מות אברהם ויקרא להם שמות כשמות אשר קרא אביו. And they, after Abraham passed away, they wanted, they covered it, and he wanted to go and uncover them and call them the same names that Abraham called it. In other words, he's following in his father's footsteps. Furthermore, ויחפרו עבדי יצחק בנחל וימצאו שם באר מים חמים. They started to dig in a new place and they found new water, מים חיים. What happens? ויריבו הורי גר הורי יצחק לאמור לנו המים. Deja vu. They're coming again and they're saying, no. We don't care that you dug this. This water belongs to us. And because they came and they rejected him and they showed him resistance, he says, you know what I'm going to call this be'er? I'm going to call it Esek. Why? Because they got busy with him, or they got what's the right word for itasku? They got intermingled with him, not so much business, but litasek im ben adam. You know, they started to bother him. They started to give him resistance. Okay, Yitzchak continues. ויחפרו באר אחרת והביאו גם עליה ויקרא שמה שטנה. Found another well. They dig it. The Plishtim come again and they fight. And to this one he called Sitna. ויעתק משם ויחפור באר אחרת ולא רבו עליה. He goes, he finds a third well, but on this one for some reason they didn't fight over it. ויקרא שמה רחובות. He says this one I'm going to call רחובות. Why? כי אתה הרחיב השם לנו ופרינו בארץ. This is a good sign. Okay, interesting. Very similar between Abraham's story. Very similar with Yitzchak's story. Let's continue. If you go to Parashat Toldot, no, I'm sorry. If you go to Parashat Vayetze, which is this week's parasha, if you go to the second Aliyah, we start seeing now Yaakov's involvement with wells. Let's see what happens with Yaakov. וישא יעקב רגליו וילך ארצה בני קדם. So Yaakov is now going in this direction towards the east. והנה וירא והנה באר בשדה והנה שם שלושה עד רצון רובצים עליה. כי מן הבאר ההיא אשכו עדרים ואבן גדולה על פי הבאר. Now he's on his way to find his bride, right? This is where he's going to meet his shidduch by the well. He's going to meet Rachel. But when he comes over there, he sees a be'er and he sees a huge rock over the be'er. And the reason why there was a huge rock over it is that the people that lived in that area did not want to share the water. So what they would do is there was a certain time during the day that all the sheep herders would come and they would collectively, 10, 15, 20, 30 people, push that big rock together because one person can't do it. They would take the water, and once they finish taking all the water, they cover it back. Not a very friendly environment again. Now, Pasuk Yud. ויהי כאשר ראה יעקב את רחל בת לבן אחי אמו ואת צאן לבן אחי אמו. When Yaakov finally sees Rachel and her sheep, ויגש יעקב ויגל את האבן מעל פי הבאר. One person, just Yaakov, is able to take this huge rock that needs multiple amount of people to push it in one shot, like it says a kapkak, like the way we take off a bottle cap. He was able to push that. Look how strong Yaakov was. וישק את צאן לבן אחי אמו. Now, this is interesting. Yaakov didn't uncover the well. There was an existing well with a big rock over it, and he was able to uncover it in order to give it to the to Rachel and to the tzon. So, what's happening here? We just learned Abraham in the well. We learned Yitzchak in the well, and Yaakov in the well. So, Al pi apshat, simply put, when somebody digs a well, what do they dig it for? To get water, right? Either to get water or to store water, right? The way they would do is either you dig in the ground and you're able to find water that comes up, or you build a hole, you put bricks in it, and then you uncover it, you let the rain go into it, and the rain fills it up, and then you cover it so like that you have water, right? So if I'm doing that, if I'm able to discover water, and I got water and I'm thirsty, I take a cup of water and I drink it, oh, great. I'm done. Let me cover it up, all the digging that we did, all the discovery, or do you leave it open for the next person? Maybe somebody else is going to come. Maybe there's going to be another person, another individual that's going to be thirsty. Maybe there's going to be another person who's going to be thirsty. Maybe my children will want to drink. Maybe my friends will want to drink. Maybe, I'm a good person. The next stranger that is hot and needs to drink some water, I opened up the well. I'm a nice guy. On peep shot, that's why you would want the be'er to stay open. As a matter of fact, there's a story in the Gemara, in Baba Kama, on the 50th page on the first side, that talks about Nechonia Chofer Be'erot. There was a gentleman that would actually go around and dig wells. For what? Chofer ve'potach u'moser l'rabim. He would dig it, he would uncover it, and he would leave it for the public to drink. What a nice guy. The Gemara talks a little bit more about him and his daughter and whatever happened over there. But you can see that the Gemara talks about a person who digs wells in order for public service. That's on the pshat, on a simple level, why it would make sense to open up a well. But if we go a little bit deeper to understanding, the word in Hebrew to dig is hofer, which is the shoresh chet pei resh. If you take those exact letters, they spell out something else. Refach, resh pei chet. Now, what is refach? This is a very high-level Kabbalistic learning, but I'm going to simplify it for all of us. Refach nitzotzot. Refach, the numerical value of refach, resh is 200, pei is 80, chet is 8, 288 sparks. Refach, 288, nitzotzot, sparks. When Hashem created the world, He went through the Shvirat HaKelim. What's Shvirat HaKelim? Certain ways that Hashem was creating the world. He tried creating the world with just Din. Didn't work. Just Chesed. It didn't work. Din and Chesed together. Oh, that worked. But in between the Shvirat HaKelim, the breaking of the vessels, there were sparks. 288 sparks that got spread into this world. All around this world, there's 288 sparks that are called Refach Nitzotzot. Above and beyond that, Adam HaRishon also, when he got separated from his wife, and he was immersed in the river for 130 years, during that time, the wife of the Samech Mem, the Lamed Yud and the Lamed Yud and the Tav, that lady over there, her and all her cohorts would go and they would be able to extract Zera from Adam HaRishon, and all those were also sparks that were spread all over the world, that were in forms of shedim, in forms of spirit, in forms of spiritual sparks that were spread around the world. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends a special team, a special operations team, to go around the world to pick up these spiritual sparks. And when these 288 spiritual sparks are picked up, Mashiach is coming. Who is the special operations team? The Jews. Just so you know, over 200, again, I believe it's 200 or 210, or maybe 216, 218, have already been picked up. During the time of the Jews in Yetziat Mitzrayim, a large portion of that was picked up when the Jews were in Mitzrayim. The balance is up until now, we're still picking it up. Now, this sparks, I'll give you an example. This is not just the job of the tzaddikim. It's our job also. I've mentioned it many times before, but it's good to repeat it. For example, if let's say you find yourself that you are all of a sudden on a flight to Europe, and all of a sudden you find yourself in an airport in Spain, and you just happen to buy a bottle of water, and at that spot, you open up the bottle and said, Hashem chose you as the messenger to go all the way to Spain, to that spot, to pick up the spark from there. Sometimes you go on a road trip. In Florida, we go on a lot of road trips to Orlando. And all of a sudden, on the way, gas stations, shopping centers, all these things, you find yourself in the middle of nowhere on this highway, and all of a sudden the kid has to go to the bathroom, or this one needs to eat, or all of that, and all of a sudden you see we're doing all these brachot in this weird section on the highway. Why? Because the HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent you mamash over there. I'll give you an example. I'm here in Houston, Texas, right? I'm traveling. I find myself all of a sudden a couple of days ago in the middle of Sugarland, next to a field. I'm like, what am I doing over here? And you had to, use Asher Yatzad, do a little bit of water. And I'm saying, Hashem, thank you for sending me as a messenger all the way. There's not one Jew around me, but I'm over here picking up a spark in Sugarland, Texas. Everybody does their work. Sometimes you don't know where Hashem sends you just to pick up a beracha, just to pick up a spark. So we see that this hafira, this digging, derech hapnimiyut, not on a simple level, but on a deeper level, is that Avraham Avinu saw a spark over there. He saw a refach nitzotz over there. The chofer is refach. He says, I saw a spark over there. There's spiritual work over here. What do I have to do? I have to dig. I have work over here. Avraham Avinu is a spiritual person. What is he concerned with? Anything that has to do with ruchaniyut. So when he comes to that specific place, he says, you know why I'm digging here? Because there's a spark over here. There's a mitzvah over here. There's navodat Hashem over here. And that's why he's fighting for it. This is mine. I worked for it. I did this. You guys have nothing to do with it. Why are you even bothering me? Why are you even approaching me? This has nothing to do with you. This is a spiritual work. When Abraham, when Yitzhak, when Yaakov were dealing with the wells, what were they dealing with? Sparks. Lama chafru? Because of the refach. Why did they dig? Because of the refach nitzotzot. Of the ruchaniyut of that place. They walk. It's like, there's something here. There's some sort of a spiritual thing over here that we have to do. There's an avodah over here. And that's what they were concerned with. Now, Abraham was the first one. We see that the language was chafar be'er. He actually dug it. Why? Because when a person digs, he's the first one to what? Liftoach tabeh. He's the first one to discover it. He's the first one to introduce it. He's the first one to set it up for future generations. That was his job. Naturally, he would be the chofer. Naturally, he would be the one that digs and discovers. Why? He was the first one to start, the father of monotheism. If anybody is going to start digging the spiritual work for the children, who is it going to be? Avraham Avinu. Yitzhak, who's his son, what does he do? Maaseh avot siman banim. What did Abba do? I'm going to do. Abba dug wells. Abba was looking for spiritual work. I'm going to follow in his footsteps. That's why it says, in the time of Rav, of a famine, and in a place that wasn't even friendly, in Yitzhak mea sha'arim. How could it be? How could it be? It's like imagine today, COVID, recession, inflation, financial collapse, and you have this one guy that's mea sha'arim. The guy is just making tons of money, super successful. Gate after gate is opening up for him. You ask him, hey, what's your success? He's like, I follow my father's footsteps. Whatever my father used to do, I do and I'm successful. The whole world is collapsing. He's successful. Why? Maaseh avot siman lebanim. By the way, when it says mea sha'arim, you know, mea sha'arim, it's 100 gates. It's not like he opened up 100 businesses. It's not always about money, right? What do we do for some of you that have a custom in the time of Havdalah, but maybe you know this a little bit better in the times of the high holidays. In the high holidays, the last Kaddish is a long Kaddish, right? Because the Chazan says, Sha'arei Chochma, Sha'arei Bina, Sha'arei Refuah, Sha'arei Parnasa Tova, and everybody says, Amen, Amen, Amen. Those are the Sha'arim. Sha'arei Zrizut, what is it? All the Mea Sha'arim opened up for him. All the things that he needed opened and opened and opened. Not necessarily just the dollar sign. And why? Because he followed the footsteps of his father. He dug wells. Abba chafar, Abba chofer, Abba mechapes refach nitzotzot, gam ani. Abba is digging, Abba is looking for spiritual work, me too. That's what I know, what my father told me. What's going on around me, I don't care, that's nothing to do with me. Yitzhak was on his own personal journey looking for spiritual work. And when he comes across it, he starts to work on it. But what happens? He gets bothered. He gets resistance. He gets the plishtim. So, it's interesting. As soon as we start to get to the part that talks about the wells in Yitzhak, what's unique about Yitzhak is that he gave 3 names. They called it Esek, Sitna, and Rechovot. Why Iska? Ita'asku ito. What is it? as soon that he wanted to start doing spiritual work, the Plishtim come and tell him, no, this is not for you, this is not your place, you don't belong here, meaning there's no spiritual work where we live. Go do this somewhere else. As a matter of fact, do you know what the word Plishtim means? The definition of the word Plishtim? Because a person's name defines them. Even Am Yisrael defines us. Yashar El, Roshli, so many things can be said about Israel. But what are Plishtim? What is a person who is Polesh? The true definition of the word Plishtim is invaders, intruders, trespassers. So just as Yitzchak Avinu was trying to do spiritual work, what does he get? Invaders, trespassers. And what did they do? Pushing him away. Not here. Not with us. There's trouble here. Better go away. That's the resistance that he got. When he goes to the second location, Sitna. If you take the word Sitna, you could actually split it into two. You could split it into Satan, Hashem. What's Satan, Hashem? Devil and God. This is also, they used this thing. Let's see how they used it to push him away again. Resistance. They got again, and he acquiesced. He left. We'll go a little bit more about why it says Satan Hashem. Because the Satan, the Samech Mem, sometimes uses the Torah to push you away from doing something. Doesn't always have to give you the dark side. He comes to the light side and convinces you not to do. The third one, he said Rechovot. You know what's Rechovot? Rechovot is like a wide space. Because after battling the resistance in Iska and then in Sitna, when he come to Rechovot, there was a triumph over there. He was able to win. Like we say in Hallel, Mina Metzar Karatiya, Bamerchav Ananiya. What's Bamerchav? Bamerchav in the white places, Hashem. That means Mina Metzar Karatiya. When there was in a constriction, when things were tight, when things were difficult, I call up to Hashem. What happens? Bamerchav Ananiya. Hashem answered me in the white places. In other words, there was a triumph over there. So even though that this is a very simple understanding of the wells, once again, if we look a little bit deeper into it, what did Yitzchak want to do? He wanted to do spiritual work, just like his father. He wanted to do something that had to do with Ruchaniyut. What happens as soon as you want to start to do something spiritual? You get resistance. As soon as you want to start something good in Avodat Hashem, what do you get? Resistance. Just like in Iska. You want to do a mitzvah, you want to do chesed, you want to give tzedakah, you want to get better at your learning, at your limud, you want to get better at your chinuch yeladim. As soon as you want to start, what happens is resistance. Something comes. Why? You're trying to do spiritual work, comes the resistance. Why? Because there's the klipat plishtim. There's a spiritual husk. There's a negative klipa, negative barrier that stops to come to challenge the person. It's called plishtim. It's the name of a klipa. And what does it come to do? What's the name? The invaders. They come to invade you. They come to trespass. You're coming to do good? No. Our job is to make you stop from doing good. Iska, yinasu limna otcha. They're going to try to stop you. Sitna, yinasu lat'ot otcha. What's sitna? Sitna is, again, like we said, the word Satan is there and the word Hashem is there. Sometimes the Yetzer Hara, how does he come to you? He comes to you with the Torah. You're never going to go to do Avodah Zarah. You're never going to go do all these, the 10 Commandments. You're never going to go against the 10 Commandments. But he knows how to give you the mitzvot in a way that you do them wrong. Or in a way that you do them crooked. Or all of a sudden you modify them. What happens? You're coming to do good. He comes to be a Satan with Hashem's word. He comes to trick you. But what happens if you overpower the Klipa of Plishtim? What happens if you overpower his wily tactics with you? You were good. You were strong. You were able to withstand it. What happens? triumph. So what do we see here? You put up a fight. When there's resistance and you keep going, when there's all this double talk in your mind and you're still going, eventually what's going to be? You'll achieve the spiritual success that you seek. We all want to be a little bit more religious, better in God's eyes, right? How does it happen? You fight, the double talk in your head, you get past it, somehow you're able to conquer it, and you become the spiritual success, just like Abraham, just like Yitzhak, just like Yaakov. And this is your personal success is only possible because who? Because your forefathers were able to do that. Because Abraham created that. He dug the well. He discovered the spirituality that needed to be done. His son Yitzhak continued in his footsteps. And why was Yitzhak successful? Because his father was successful. Why was Yaakov successful? Because Yitzhak was successful, because Abraham was successful. And it goes down and down from Yaakov to the Shvatim, all the way down to us. The reason why we are able to be spiritually successful is because they already fought that fight. And we are not able to fight that fight because they showed us how to win. They showed us how to battle the Klippa of Plishtim. They showed us how to not listen to the double talk of the Yetzer Hara when tries to talk to you and convince you even with Torah concepts. And they know that after the fight, eventually you're going to win. Hashem, min hamitzah keratiyah, b'mechav ananiyah. Hashem is going to answer you at one point. But you need to put up the fight in order to succeed. Just like anything. You don't get the championship belt if you don't fight 12 rounds. It just doesn't happen. You're not going to be a success if you don't put up the fight. You know, Kadosh Baruch Hu wants us to participate, interact in our success. We can't just sit on the couch and say, I'm a Jew, Hashem, I'm a beautiful neshama, and just rain on me checks of millions of dollars. Rain on me kedusha. I want to put the wings on my back. I want to be an angel. You can't. That doesn't happen like that. Kadosh Baruch Hu it just rains on you. You have to make an effort. This is going to start to get very interesting. It's not just the Avot. It's not just Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov that paved the way, that trailblazed for us our spiritual success. They're not the only ones that dug holes. We have many, many, many more tzaddikim in Jewish history that opened up a spiritual success that we can draw from, that we can build on. In Megillat Esther, in the holiday of Purim, we're going to read about Haman, who wants to kill Mordechai Yehudi. And Haman goes to his advisors, as well as to his wife, who was a big witch. She was a big sorcerer. She was very big into black magic and astrology. And he comes to ask his wife Zeresh for advice. In Megillat Esther, on the 6th chapter, in Pasuk Yud Gimel, let's see if they have it here. They should.
At the end.
Esther, found it. Beautiful. Okay, Perek Vav, Pasuk Yud Gimel. Look at this strange question. This strange interaction between Haman and his wife Zeresh. So, just to catch you up, where are we? This is after Achashverosh says to Haman, take Mordechai, give him the best suit, the best crown, the best horse, and walk him in the street and say, Kacha ya'aseh la'ish asher hamelech chafetz bikaro. This is exactly what Haman wanted to do. But vayafochu. Instead of Haman having this honor, Mordechai gets this honor. So after this happens, after he walks him through the entire Persia or Shushan, and he's parading Mordechai, and he's announcing, "Kacha yaseh la'ish asher hamelech hafetz bikaro, kacha yaseh la'ish asher hamelech hafetz bikaro." This is what's going to be done to the man that finds favor in the eye of the king. So after that, Haman walks home. Imagine, he walks home, he closes the door. What does he say? And he goes, "Vaysaper Haman lezeresh ishto ulchol avav et kol asher karau." Comes to his wife, he says, "Zeresh, you don't know what kind of a day I had. You don't know." Not only that, he started to also tell the story to Avav, the people that loved him, the people of his home. Vayomru lo chachamav vezeresh ishto. After he told them the whole story of how everything got flipped upside down on him, and how he's so distraught and he's so depressed from what happened, his advisors and his wife Zeresh tell him, "Im mizera Yehudi Mordechai, asher chilota linpol lefanav." He says, by any chance is Mordechai from the progeny of the Jews? Is he from the seed mizera Yehudim? What kind of a question is that? Is Mordechai Jewish? What's his name? Mordechai HaYehudi. Everybody knows him as the Jew Mordechai. Mordechai Yehudi. What did they ask him? Im mizera Yehudi Mordechai. If he from the seed of the Jews Mordechai, lo tuchal lo. You're not going to be able to defeat him. Ki nafol tipol lefanav. You're going to fall in front of his face. Now, what's going on over here? Zeresh was an astrologer, and the people and the advisors were also witchcraft. And they say when they're looking at the stars, they say the Jews have a lot of protection. A lot of protection. Each one, they have people in the past that already got saved from huge tragedies. They have Avraham Avinu that got saved from the fire. You have You have Yitzhak who got saved from the knife, from Mesirut Nefesh. He was supposed to get killed by his father. He got saved. Yaakov, Ish Tam Yoshev Alim. Yaakov, he's willing to die for the Torah. Yosef, he sat in the prison for 12 years. Moshe had a sword on his neck and he got saved. The neck turned into marble, and Paro wasn't able to decapitate him. He says, but you know, there's one thing that nobody ever died as a Jew. Strangulation. Let's hang him. Nobody ever did. That's why they said the tree has to be 50 amah and hang him. Why? Because nobody in the past history got saved from hanging. She was smart. She was very smart. But what did she say? Pay attention to the wording now. Im mizera hayehudi Mordechai lo tuchal lo. What's mizera Yehudim? He says, if he is like those other ones, shezorea Yeshuot, is he's going to be another one like those, like Avraham, like Yitzhak, like Yaakov, lo tuchal lo. Meaning, we're going to try to hang him, but if he's that type of Jew, that chofer borot, that opens up Yeshuot, he's going to get saved from the hanging, and he's going to open up the Yeshuot for hanging for Am Yisrael. If he's one of those Jews that plants salvations for the Jews. In other words, Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov were opening up for us the spiritual wells. But we see that throughout in history we have other Jews that opened up. As a matter of fact, Chazal tell us that after Megillat Esther, after the story of Esther, no more Yeshuot were going to be to Am Yisrael. You know why? Because Esther opened up all the Yeshuot. There's not one thing we can't get out of. There's not one thing that the Jews can't get out of. All the Yeshuot, carte blanche, we can get out of it. No matter what a person can be in, he can get out of it. Why? somebody dug for us before. Somebody did the work before. I can depend on Abraham to be saved from fire. I can depend on Yosef to be saved from prison. I can depend on Moshe to get saved from a sword. I can depend on Mordechai to get saved from hanging. All the Yeshuot, somebody in our history already did it. Now, what does this mean to us today? What does this mean to us today? Here we go again. We always want to say, what's the date right now? November 2021. Tafshin Bet. We're in Kislev Tafshin Bet. What does this lesson mean to me? Tov, Zachinu, we merited. We have Avot, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, that did the spiritual work, makes it easy for us to be spiritual entities, spiritual human beings. And we have spiritual giants in our history. Shechafru be'erot, shezaru yeshot. They dug the wells, they planted the salvations. They paved the way to spiritual success. They paved the physical protection that we need in this world. We have the Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aharon. We have the David, Shlomo. We have all the Tanaim, the Amoraim, the Nevi'im, the rabbis. We have. The Imahot. Correct, the Imahot. My apology, I'm such a guy. Maaseh Avot, Siman Lebanim. All of them are our ancestors. They're all our fathers. Whatever Maaseh Avot, whatever they did, is Siman Lebanim. Is for us to learn from it. It's for us to feed off of it, to build off of it. By the way, the same thing works for the opposite, by the way. Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim in a negative way also. If a father does something negative, something that is not kosher, not good, he's setting up he dug a bad well for his son. Whatever the father did, the child is now prone to follow in his way. Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim is not just one-sided only for the good. Hashem keeps it fair for the bad also. So if you have a quote-unquote bad father, what is going to happen with the child? There's a good chance, or maybe there is a 50-50 chance, that maybe he goes in the bad way, maybe he goes in the good way. Maybe all the avot before are going to help him, give him siyata d'shmaya, or maybe he's going to go for the example in the house and follow the father. There's some bad examples in some homes. As a matter of fact, you might not even pay attention to it. Every day we do tachanun, right? We bang on our chest and we say Ana. Pay attention to the wording of Ana. This is what, there's nothing like learning and also sticking in a little bit something of tefillah. Because anytime we can learn how to wake up the tefillah, it's better for us. It says, when we say Ana, it says, we ask Hashem that let our tavo lefanecha tfilatenu, that our prayer should come before you. V'al titalem alkeinu tchinatenu, and don't ignore our begging for your forgiveness. She'enachnu azeh panim k'sharoref, that we are stiff-necked and that we're brazen. That we can come in front of you and tell you, oh, we're righteous, we never sin. It's not that. We need you to forgive us. We can't be that brazen. Aval chatanu, we admit, we sinned. Avinu, pashanu, anachnu v'avotenu v'anshe betenu. You're banging on your chest, and what are you saying? We sinned, our father sinned, and the people in our house sinned. Hold on a second. You're here in tefillah. What are you bringing your father into it? Anachnu v'avotenu. Leave your father alone. Why are you putting it, throwing him under the bus? Anachnu v'avotenu Vanshe betenu. You're asking for forgiveness. Why are you mentioning your father? For what get him in trouble? And what's Vanshe betenu? And the people that live in the house. Tell you, if you did something wrong, take the blame on your own. What are you bringing everybody else? You know why? Anachnu va'avotenu vanshe betenu? Because the reason why you're sinning is because your father showed you how to sin. Your father sinned this way, and you're sinning like him. The reason why you're sinning is because of your father. Maaseh avot siman lebanim in a negative way also. Vanshe betenu, the people of our homes, is sometimes the people that are around us. The environment and effects of who we are. So we say, Hashem bagaynu, Hashem, you know how I got here? My father, my environment. If you paid attention to Yaakov, there was something very interesting about Yaakov. Yaakov, the well was already dug. What did he do? He had a big rock and he moved it. Right? Let's go back to the psukim. Yaakov Vayetze Sheni. Okay, Yaakov. Okay, Pasuk Yud. It says, "Vayagel et ha'even ma'al pi ha'be'er." In Yaakov's instance, the well was already dug and there was a rock. The word Evan, which in Hebrew means rock, also is a combination of two words. Evan is Av veben. Yaakov comes to the Evan and says, you know why I can move this rock? Because Av and Ben. I have the relationship of Av and Ben. And my father has the relationship of Av and Ben. My father, the father showed the son the spiritual works. When he comes to this, when 30 men need to push it, he goes like this. I know how to do this. Av and Ben. It's not an Evan. My father showed me the right way to deal with spiritual work with the Be'er. As a matter of fact, Av, it says, when you came to the Be'er, it says, Ve'even me'aleha. There was a rock on top of the Be'er. What's Evan me'aleha? Av ve'ben, ma'aleha, ma'alim lashem. The father and the son are able to what? To uplift the name of God. How? Ha'av megale laben, because it says, Vayigale tabor. Ha'av megale laben. He reveals to him how to do it. That's the whole thing. If you notice, what's a Jewish home? A Jewish home is all about educating the children. Our entire home is revolving around who? Our children. Go to any Jewish family, 99.99% of Jewish families, the whole house revolves around who? The children. Mostly the baby. If you guys have a baby at home, you know they run the house. So it says, Av megale laben et ptichat ha'be'er. What's ptichat ha'be'er? That the father reveals to the son the opening of the be'er. The bi'ur. What is be'er? Leva'er. What's leva'er? Spiritual work is understanding God. As the Av megale laben et bi'ur. How to study the pasuk, how to study the Rashi, how to understand the Mishnayot, how to understand the Tosfot, how to perform the halachot, how to keep Shabbat, how to keep the holidays. That's the job of a father. So what does this mean to you? What does this mean to us? It's very simple. As parents, we always want so much from our children, right? We want them to be tzaddikim, we want them to do all the brachot, all the mitzvot. You want them from the minute that they wake up to the minute that they go to sleep, you want them to be Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, right? Meanwhile, what are we? What about us?
So,
Man, I'm not going to say it. Sometimes we're closer to Esav than we are to Yaakov, right? And not only that, what's our past? If they look at us at the age that they are, how we were, they're like, hey, well, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. What do you expect from me? So, but we know it's the right thing. We know it's the right thing. The Torah life is the right thing, right? We know that educating in Derech Hashem is the right way, and we're only doing it because we mean well. But to tell them, it's never going to work. Because Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim. What's Maaseh? The Avot have to do. You want your child to learn Shas, you have to learn Shas. You have to dig the be'er of Shas for your son, and then when he grows up, he's going to be able to learn it. You open up that be'er, and he'll follow you that way. You want him to come to Minyan on time, you have to come to Minyan on time. You want him to have midot tovot, you have to have good midot. You want him to give tzedakot, you want to be charitable, you have to be charitable. You have to dig that well, Maaseh Avot, and then they look at you, Siman Lebanim. What Abba does, I do.
teach by example.
Teach by example, lead by example. We started the class asking the question, what's up with the wells? Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov with the be'er, with the be'er, with the be'er. What is this all about? Who cares if they dug a water, found the water, giving it name, not giving it name? Why are people giving it resistance? Why they're fighting for it? You know why? Because it's spiritual work. They didn't do it for the water. They did it for the spiritual spark. There was some sort of ruchaniyut, some sort of a mitzvah over there, some sort of a limud over there. And they understand that they need to do it, because if they do it, that means that their children will be able to do it. And this is the lesson for us. We expect so much from our children. We expect so much from our children. But if there's one lesson that we can walk away from in Sefer Bereshit, that Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are talking to us and telling us directly, lead by example. Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim. The action, your action, not the talking. Your action is what's going to be the spiritual success of your children. Having said that, may we merit to, first of all, to be matzlichim, to be successful in our spiritual journey. Sometimes it's not so easy. There's there's work, there's COVID, there's all these different things that are happening in life. Children, finances, health. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of resistance. As soon as you want to pick up the book, there's a text, there's an email, there's a phone call, there's a this. All of a sudden you're tired. All of a sudden you're not feeling well. All these different things. The miniot. What do? Push through. Push through. Yeah, I understand this reason. One second. I'll be right with you. Let me learn. Let me do my Shtay Mikra V'Chatagum. Let me do my Daf Yomi. Let me learn one page. Let me do one parak of Tehillim. Let me do something. Why? For my children. For my children. For my children's success. Because if we do it for us, we're so good at talking ourselves out of it. Later, tomorrow. We already know which excuse to give ourselves to get ourselves off the hook. But if you understand that it's not about you anymore, Hashem gave you the gift of a child. Do it for the children. Do the learning for the children. Do the mitzvah for the children. Do the tzedakah for the children. Because when you do it, later on down the road, you opened up that well for them. Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim is one of the greatest lessons you could ever take. Because as a Jew, you are a superhero. You're superhuman. There's not one thing that you can't get out of. That gives you a lot of confidence. Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and everybody else after them already opened up all the yeshuot. Go into the world knowing that you can get out of anything. It might be last minute. It might not be when you want it, but you're going to get out of it. What's left? What's left when there's no fear? Just do good. And what does Hashem say? Hashem says, I want to go partners with you. Find a wife. You found a wife? Let's go. the mother and the father give the organs and the parts, and Hashem gives the neshama. He says, now we're partners. I give you a deposit. What are you doing with that deposit? What are you doing with that child? Continue. Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. It's like Abraham Avinu had a ball, and he passed it to Yitzchak. And Yitzchak passed the ball to Yaakov, and Yaakov to the Shvatim, and the Shvatim to their children. And it went from one generation to one generation to one generation to one generation until it comes to your hand. Don't drop the ball. Keep it going. Keep the ball going. Imagine after 120 years you go to the Shamayim, they say, okay, show us your handiwork, show us your children. My children sort of like went off the derech. You know what they're going to tell you? So you dropped the ball? Thousands and thousands of years we're passing this Torah from one to the other. You decided it's not important to pass it on? You know what a busha it is in the Shamayim to feel that? Then the Shamayim it gets tortured from that feeling. But you could also go up to the Shamayim after 120 and say, where's my handiwork? Look at my tzaddik. Look at my tzaddik. You know how hard I worked on that shas? You know how hard I worked on that shtay mikra v'echad tagu? You know how hard I worked on tzedakah? You know how hard I worked? You know why? For him, for her. So it's very, very important that we never lose focus. Because sometimes we like to give a lot of importance to work and a lot of importance to fear. There's no fear in Parashat Vayetze. As long as the children are still at that age where they're in your home, that's the work. That's the avodah. And when they become adults, it doesn't stop. I can't speak because my children, Baruch Hashem, are still young. But I speak to people that sometimes when they get older, it's even more because they have to worry about their wives and their children. I don't know this. Be'ezat Hashem that I get to know the good things about being a grandparent.
Amen.
But Be'ezat Hashem, when we walk away knowing that the Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim is a secret formula to success in the home. Hashem vayich otchem, sameach otchem. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. And Be'ezat Hashem that each one of you get a lot of nachat from your children.
Amen.
Amen.